Hello everyone, Colin Cannett here for Woodwork Web. Today we're going to build this great little knife block, and instead of using slots like most of them that you've seen, this one uses bamboo skews. Packages and packages of little bamboo skews. And that means that when you put knives in, you can put any size knife in that you want. There's short, there's long, you can put them in upside down, right side up. It holds tons of knives, a great addition to your kitchen. So stick around and watch how we make this great little knife block. Well, to get started, I went through my bits and pieces that I had, cut-offs from other projects, and I found this piece of live edge, and you know, sometimes you don't know what it's going to look like till you cut into it, and this has there's some gorgeous wood here, but it's live edge, and I don't think for this it's really going to work well. So I think the first thing we'll do is go over to the table saw, and we're going to trim off this live edge, and then we'll put a little bit of an angle on the bottom. Now, normally for ripping wood like this, I'd be using my 24 tooth ripping blade, but in this case the material is very thin. It's about 3/8 of an inch thick, so now I'm going to be using my combination blade, which will rip and cut, and it'll make a little bit finer job of ripping. I've already set the tooth height to about a half tooth above the material. I've set the distance of the fence, and we're all ready to go. Now I'm going to make the angle cut on the bottom of the knife block, but before I do, I just want to remind you, if you haven't already, we'd like you to subscribe to my channel, and let's go ahead and make that cut. Now I've set the angle at 25 degrees, and I'm cutting them both together so we get them identical. Well, now the next thing that I need to do, this is all looking nice at all, everything's nice and flush there. What I need to do now is to figure out how long. I've taken some of these and cut them to size. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. What I need to do now is to figure out how deep I need to make this, because we need to cut this off somewhere. So there's the bottom that I have, and I've cut it to size. And it's not the right way around. That's better. That looks about good there. I'm just going to freehand a mark somewhere about where we will want this. Now all these I'm going to have to cut carefully and individually. Well, as you can see in the pinning, something happened to my 23 gauge pin, or I don't know what went wrong there. I did check it before, and it seemed to be working fine. However, then the camera got turned off, so you didn't get to see the pinning, but it's not really a big deal. There's really not that much to see. I'm going to put the bottom in. I'm going to let this dry for probably an hour or so anyway, and then we'll carry on. But in the meantime, what I want to do is I'm going to show you how to cut the bamboo inserts. Now, before I cut the bamboo strips, I want to talk a little bit about working with bamboo. I've worked with it a little bit, and it's not wood. Bamboo is actually grass, and it has different properties. It looks like wood when it's dry like this, but it's not. It's grass, and it has different properties. And to illustrate, you take a piece of wood and you bend it and you bend it, and it snaps. It doesn't take much to snap a piece of wood. But when you take a piece of bamboo, now this is a little bit thinner, but when you take a piece of bamboo, it takes a lot. You have to bend it. If you strip some of these, you can do that. You can actually, because the grain runs all the way through, you can actually cut them right down the middle. You can actually turn them into knots. But you see how it's splintering like that? That is what bamboo does, and it's these long, stringy things. And if you're not careful, when you cut this stuff, it will bind up and wrap around in your saw. And it can be dangerous to work with, so I'm going to show you the best way to work with cutting these bamboo strips. You really need to use some black electrical tape, some rubberized or plasticized tape that you can get really tight. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to trim these up to just under 9 inches. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to cut these. And officially, I'm going to tell everyone these need to be cut by hand with a hand saw, a little back saw or something like that, or a little pull saw. But I know a lot of you are going to resort to your chop saw or your sliding miter. So I'm going to tell you the safest way to do it if you're using your chop saw or your sliding miter. So I marked mine where I'm going to be cutting, and I put some black electrical tape. It's a stretchy tape, and I put that on there as tight as I can, and these are on there really tightly. The next thing, if you've got whatever blade you've got in your chop saw or your sliding miter, it needs to be at least an 80 tooth blade. Do not try and cut this with a 60 tooth blade or less in your chop saw or sliding miter. And I've also set up a stop block, and I'll use that to put my wood up against, and you can see I'm actually even going to cut some of the tape, and there's nothing wrong with that because you want the tape as close to the blade as you can, and when you cut, you go very, very slowly. So let's go ahead and make that cut. So you can see just how important it is to make sure that you do this safely, because you saw the bits flying off there and how easy this stuff shreds. So cut this stuff as safely as you can. Well, our little knife block is looking real good. What I need to do now is to glue the base in, and what I'm going to do to position it, I've got a couple of scrap pieces of wood, and I'm going to put them in from here, and I'm just going to clamp them down when they're even with the top, and do that in the top and the bottom. And then on the other side, I'm going to give it a quick coat of Osmo, and in a couple minutes, even though it's not going to be dry, I'm going to put the bamboo skewers in so that we can see what it looks like. I just wanted you to see what this Osmo is going to do to pop this figure in this wood here that I selected earlier. Well, of course, it's only got the one coat of Osmo on it so far, but I couldn't wait to see what the skewers look like in there. And it looks really good, and it works really well. I like the way it goes in there. I've got quite a few knives to put in there yet, but I think I'm going to add yet another package or two. These things aren't cheap to build. You have to buy a lot of packages of skewers, of course, depending on how big your knife block is. But it looks like I need at least a couple more packages, so I'll have to do that. But anyway, that looks great. It works great. You can put any size knife in there. This one's dropping down a bit because it's not quite full, but anyway, it works great. Well, and there's my finished little knife block, and I've put all sorts of knives in just to see what it looks like, and actually filled it up with some more bamboo skews as well, so it's all ready to go. One thing you might want to do with some of them, if it gets really heavy on top, I've seen some of them that have like a little foot down here so that it doesn't tip over. Mine seems to be pretty steady, but I'm going to watch that and see. I may have to add that later on. But anyway, that's our little knife block project for today. I'm Colin Kennett for Woodwork Web. If you haven't already subscribed, we ask you to do that. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. I haven't told you that stuff for a long time. And stick around because I got lots more builds coming.